Is Beijing becoming the next Rome? All the roads lead to Beijing. You know how many European leaders flew to China? Because I was seeing one after another going.
U.S. also is not winning friends right now because not only like the world have seen through the U.S. hypocrisy, but U.S. is actively slapping everyone with sanctions. Whether friends or foe. U.S. just like they're slapping tariffs on like Australian beef. Like. And on the Europeans, and slapping tariffs on the Europeans, on the Japanese, on the Koreans, and this is why von der Leyen is in China. This is why von der Leyen is in China, because Europe is now looking for alternatives. They can't. They some people finally the European elite realize maybe they don't want to go down with the ship. Maybe it's time to extend the olive branch to China.
Is this means that the Europeans wanted to have a piece of the pie, knowing how the auto market's going to be? Because the US, we're gonna be holding the end of the stick. But here is the thing, Carl, and here's the question for you: should China trust the EU?
Well, I think China have a very pragmatic approach to EU. They always hope for the best, but prepare for the worst.
The worst.
Because EU being what it is, like there's still no evidence that European leader has grown a spine, when it comes to the United States. So China is trying to encourage European autonomy. They're trying to encourage European leaders to grow a spine, but ultimately it's up to the European leaders, whether they can really, stand up to the US and pioneer an independent foreign policy.
I have my doubts, Carl. I have family lives in Europe. I was, growing up and hearing stuff, and I have my doubts.
One of the key issues von der Leyen raised with China besides trade was they're actually trying to persuade China again to put pressure on Russia over Ukraine, which is it's a non sequitur. That's not going to happen. That is not going to happen. China is not going to cut the trade ties with Russia at this point. For what? So right now, these are a lot of wishful thinking still on the parts of European elite. Somehow they can, it's like why would China help you to sabotage Russia when the next target will be China? That will just mean allow the United States to pivot more resources to Western Pacific. So that does not make sense. And
speaking
Europe.
Yeah, go ahead, Carl.
No, I mean Europe. They have yet to make peace with the fact that China will always pursue its own independent foreign policy strategy that works out for China, like what every other country should be doing.
Does.
It's only Europe right now that's only like being a plying proxy for Washington. Shake their tails and ask how high when Trump says jump.
Well, you remember, Carl, about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years, when Biden was still in office. You know how many European leaders flew to China? And I remember I did a video and I said, is Beijing becoming the next Rome? All the roads lead to Beijing. Because I was seeing one after another going.
What they're doing right now, David, they're hedging. They're hedging their bets. Same thing like the Saudis and the GCC. They're all hedging their bets. They kind of see the USA Titanic is starting to sink, and they don't want to be dragged down with it, right? So they're already hedging their bets. They're already like they see that China is obviously rising, and they want to be at least on working relationship with China. And also they can use a relationship with China then as a leverage in their dealing with Washington. This is what Saudi is doing. It's like, hey, we have alternatives. If you keep on pressuring us, we're going to have no choice but to work with China. So this is why Trump did that tour throughout the Gulf, throughout the GCC to show them, okay. And it's very telling what Trump told them. Trump says, we're going to stay out of your hair. We're going to stay out of your business. right? I know this is what you wanted, and I will give it to them. This is all the GCC wanted, this is for United States stayed out their hair, and that's has been the consistent foreign policy of China. The whole non-interference policy means China do not get involved in the all the GCC internal matters, and Trump now is just kind of trying to catch up. They're trying to apply the same the Chinese principle in approach to foreign policy, but I don't think that will succeed because U.S. being what it is, it's an empire. I don't think that will.
But speaking of this European maneuvering, I am noticing also that during the same time frame, Albanese of Australia end up coming to China. What is the heck is this all about? All of a sudden, Albanese is heading out to Beijing. What should China expect?
Well, I mean, for Australian side, they're trying to repair the damage that was done to the China-Australian relationship by their previous leader, right? And who was a Trump lackey. Scott Morrison, who was a loyal Trump lackey, right? So right now, Australia is trying to put the Australian-China relationship back on track. And again, Australia is also hedging too. I mean, I actually, it makes even more sense for Australia to repair their ties because China is their largest customer. You should not offend your customer, right? Like what Scott Morrison did was moronic. You are pissing off your largest export market, and so this is at the same time when Trump is putting 50% tariff on Australia over steel and beef, and Trump put out a tweet saying, Australia will be the perfect market for the American beef. I'm like, selling beef to Australia. Selling beef to Australia is like selling oil to Saudi Arabia. Like, what are you doing, man? It's like, but this is Trump. Trump. Everything as a victory. He can claim victory. But
and he lied. He lies.
But
big time saying, you know what, Carl? He was saying that the meat in America is the best and the safest. I know what they're injecting in meat here.
Even Taiwan had put trade restrictions against American beef. This was actually a huge controversial issue when the last Taiwanese leader trying to remove those restrictions on the American beef because Taiwan public, they don't trust American beef safety standards because it got injected with all kind of hormones and chemicals but people. And that was actually a big controversial issue in Taiwan, and so Trump is just exasperating all these issues with its quote unquote allies, and this is why they're all going to China because China is now emerging as a clear global leader, a stable hand in today's environment compared to this the shizzle that lives in the White House. I also like to mention. China and Vietnam just held their first ever joint military exercise together. For the first in 75 years, and this is kind of shatters the whole Western delusion about using Vietnam as a counterweight against China. Like their military are literally exercising together right now, and it's also a big step, to heal the whatever wound left over between after 1979 Sino-Vietnamese War, because a whole generation has passed by. I was born in 1976, so I'm almost like 49. It's not like a couple generation has already passed. Enough water under the bridge for the two sides now working closer together, and we saw that when Xi Jinping visited Vietnam and they roll out the red carpet for him.
And the last thing, Carl, it has to do with the U.S. pressuring Japan and Australia over Taiwan. What the heck is where this is going with this pressure stuff? Will Japan, in your opinion, given what's going on with the I'm sure you're aware of the outcome of the elections in Japan. It's bad news for the ruling party. Will Japan and Australia push back against the bullying of the US? Will they have the gut to do it?
Well, I mean, I think we can see Japan. There's already a lot of roadblocks on the trade negotiation between Japan and US. Another round of talks just wrapped around with no concrete agreement, because for Japan, a lot of these what they saw as bullying by Trump is existential for the Japanese industries, especially the auto market, because 25% tariff on foreign auto parts that hit the Japanese automaker like Toyota, Nissan, and Honda very hard, because United States remain a very important market for them. It's a world's second largest car market after China, and unlike China, Japanese automaker have to rely on export. But China, it has like 35 million cars sold in a year. It's a world's largest car market. Chinese car makers can just sell cars to the Chinese, but the Japanese and Koreans they will have to export. They eat the export market. So the Trump tariff is hitting them very hard, and that's why they're really strongly resisting right now. And same with Australia. I mean, like, they're getting hit with 50% tariff, like beef and steel imports, and this is why, again, Australian Prime Minister is in China, because they also want to use, they're not just hedging, but they also can leverage their relationship with China to tell United States, hey, you better back off, or I'm gonna go with China. I have alternatives. I have people to go to. Don't pressure us too hard. So this is a game of chess right now that's being played out in the Western Pacific, and And Trump, Trump, he plays checkers. I don't think he will win this game. He's Trump. I say Trump is my president. He's my president for accelerationism of U.S. empire's decline. Everything he does is going to accelerate the decline of the U.S. empire, and I'm all for sure. That. And right now, this is why Japan right now is trying to, trying to improve their ties with China, and so is Australia, because they understand when it comes down to it, their livelihood still depend on trade with China, the most important economy in the region.
And I will add the European to that mix as well.
Of course.
So,